Hello all, my name is Darshan Bilgi. Today I am going to do a technical seminar on topic 3 key enabling technologies in 802.11 AX and current status and directions of IEEE 802.11b, the future Wi-Fi. These are my contents and let us start with abstract. The two innovative multi-user schemes have recently attracted much attention as a key technologies in the Wi-Fi 6, which is latest Wi-Fi. The key technologies like a multi-user MIMO, multi-user OFDMA are adapted in 802.11a to boost the capabilities of the Wi-Fi system. The method of multi-user transmission in Wi-Fi will still suffers from a severe problem with the channel state information feedback, means the information which describes how signal propagates from the transmitter to receiver. The multi-user transmission scheme will suffer from a problem, suffer from this problem, this overhead problem. So this will, however, this will preclude the obtaining much higher using the multi-user MIMO. So, and the while customer attention on the Wi-Fi 6, the task group of IEEE is developing a new generation Wi-Fi, which is IEEE 802.11b. At first sight, at, at first sight, 802.11b is the scaled version of 11a, which will be the scaled version of the previous, the latest, the 11a, with doubled bandwidth and increased spatial stream, which will together provides a data rates up to 30 GB per second. So in addition, they will include many features like a 4K QAM, 320 megahertz channel, and HARQ technique, and NOMA method, etc. This IEEE 802.11b, which will be the Wi-Fi 7, will form a basement for the further evolution. The next is Wi-Fi evolution. Owing to a fast data rates, easy installation, and free internet access, the number of Wi-Fi users and devices has been continuously increasing over the last few years. So, as the researcher says that there will be over a 500 million Wi-Fi hotspots, which will be more than 50% of the internet traffic, which will be carried by the Wi-Fi. So, given in this trend, it is easy to imagine that the future Wi-Fi networks will become a more dense because of the more number of user, and will suffer from a severe congestion problem. So means that the frame collision may frequently occur, and the user will have to wait for a very long time to receive and transmit the data, and the quality of the user experience will drop significantly. So by the end of 7 years long, the development in 1997, the first Wi-Fi was released, which had a throughput of 2 MB per second, which is too small to replace the 100 Mbps Ethernet, which is connection oriented. Even though it is 2 Mbps, but it is too small to replace a 100 Mbps Ethernet. So the community developed a new standard in 1999 and 2003. They developed a new standard, which is namely a 802.11b, 11a, and 11g. So which has a throughput up to 54 MB per second. By using a new modulation scheme such as OFDM, they used a modulation and coding scheme such as the OFDM, which is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. And after that, in 2009, the task group introduced the 802.11n, which gives the data rates up to a 600 Mbps, which is almost 10 to 11 times more than the previous standard. In this, they introduced the higher coding rates. And along with that, they introduced the MIMO technology, which we will discuss later. So, and next they introduced the 802.11 AC, namely a Wi-Fi 5 in 2013, which which has a 10x increase in data rate. Means you can see 600 Mbps to 6.8 Gbps, which is 10x increase in the data rate. And they use the expand approach used in previous Wi-Fi and increase the constellation order from 64 com to 256 com. So now we currently have a Wi-Fi which is 802.11 AX, which is Wi-Fi 6, which was introduced in 2009. Here you can see which was introduced in 2009. The task group focused on the improving the efficiency. The task group focused on the improving efficiency. They didn't care about the data rate. So only 2 to 3 GB per second is data. 2 to 3 GB per second data rate is increased. So they introduced the new OFDMA, the multi-user OFDMA and multi-user MIMO technology. The IEEE 802.11ax puts more focus on the network performance. They will put a more focus on the network performance and the user experience of the high dense employment scenario. So now video traffic is increasing, like like 4K and 8K videos are coming, which need a high throughput up to 20 GB per second. But Wi-Fi 6 only provides 10 up to 10 GB per second. And low latency application which need a minimal latency, the applications such as virtual reality, augmented reality. So as I said, 802.11ax only focuses on efficiency, not on data rates. So to meet these new standards or needs, then developing a new standards which is 802.11ax, sorry, 802.11b, with data rate up to 30 to 40 GB per second. It may be fully ready on 2024, which will have a features like, as I said earlier, 4K QAM, NOMA technology, 320 megahertz channel, etc. Here you can see as a new application evolved, the data required for that also increased. So the Wi-Fi also evolved accordingly. So you can see that at the first the Wi-Fi used for only message and then streaming and then for video and then for calling and so on. So next is the three key enabling technologies of IEEE 802.11ax. There are total three key enabling technologies in 802.11ax, which are multi-user OFDMA, multi-user MIMO, and spatial reuse, which is BSS coloring. Basically, it is a BSS coloring. Let us talk about one by one. The first one is the multi-user OFDMA. OFDMA means the orthogonal frequency division multiple access scheme. The term multi-user, which simply means that the transmission between an access point, which is a router, and a multiple clients can occur at the same time and depending on the supported technology. The 802.11ax is the sixth generation of Wi-Fi, which will be built on the strengths of 802.11ac, which is the previous standard and which provides a more wireless capacity and reliability. The 802.11ax achieves these benefits by using a denser modulation. The denser modulation schemes like a 1024 quadrature amplitude modulation and a multi-user OFDMA like this. So using a scheduled based resource allocation. So unlike 802.11 AC, the 802.11a is a dual band. It will use a dual band, 2.4 gigahertz and also a 5 gigahertz technology. The 802.11ax was designed for a maximum compatibility and a coexisting efficiency with 802.11 AGN and AC clients. In earlier 802.11ax standards, earlier 802.11 standards uses the method called CSMA-CA, which is carrier sense multiple access collision avoidance method, in which the wireless client's first sense, it will, in this standard, the wireless clients will be first sense whether it will check whether the channel is idle or not. If it is idle, then only the transmission will happen, otherwise no. So although this will clear the clear assessment and collision avoidance, but the efficiency will decrease when the number of clients grow very large. So 802.11ax protocol solves this problem. The the recent Wi-Fi will solve this problem using a technology called the multi-user OFDM and scheduled based resource allocation technology. The 802.11x uses the mu OFDMA technology, as I said, which will allows the resource units that divide the bandwidth. Means bandwidth, the whole bandwidth is divided into a smaller piece for respective user. Here you can see this is used for only user one. If you use OFDMA, here you can see this is for user 0, this is for user 2, this is for user 1. So the bandwidth is divided according to the needs of the clients and provides multiple individuals with the same user experience at a faster speed. With 802.11s, which is previous standard, the Wi-Fi channel was broken down into a collection of smaller OFDM subchannels. This is the previous standard, which is used in previous standard, OFDM. The whole bandwidth is broken down into a OFDMA subchannels. And however, with multi-user OFDMA, the individual groups of subcarrier are individually allocated to clients as a resource unit. The 802.11ax access points. Access point means the router dictate when the device will operate and thus handling clients more efficiently. The resource scheduling, which will used in the AX, will also significantly reduces the power consumption during a sleep time, which will improve the battery life of a clients. And let us talk about OFDM first, which is used in the previous standard 11 AC and all. Here you can see this is access point, and these are the clients. No, these are the clients. So here this truck represents the channel width. Channel width means the size. The more the number of channel width means the more data it can carry. So the channel width can be a 20 megahertz, channel width can be a 40 megahertz, channel width can be a 80 megahertz, and channel width can be a 160 megahertz in 802.11a. But in the 320 megahertz channel also used in the next standard, which is 802.11b. So inside this truck is the packet. This truck is the packet which should be transferred to the respective users. So with this scenario, if I need to transmit, means if I am an access point, if I need to transmit the data to these three users, I need a separate truck. In a OFDM, I need a separate truck to carry each data. This second truck, which is for a second user, is sent when the first truck is sent their data successfully. Then only this first data, when this sent the data this first truck sent the data successfully, then only the second can. So these two these two trucks have to wait until their turn comes, means uh, until their turn comes. So the delay also increases, and the wait time delay means the wait time also increases, which will decrease the efficiency. So to overcome this, the multi-user OFDMA scheme was introduced in 802.11x, which is ideal for most networks and applications, which will result in a better frequency reuse and reduced latency and increased efficiency. Here you can see this is the multi-user OFDMA scheme. So here you can see the single truck is used. The single truck is used, and the truck channel width means the size. The truck's channel width is divided into a several sub channels. Means here you can see for 3 clients, it is according to the size it is divided, which means it is called resource units. It's called resource units. The same truck will serve the all three users simultaneously, which will reduce the latency and which will reduce latency, which will reduce the delay time. Here you can see if it is a 20 megahertz channel, if it assume that it is a 20 megahertz channel, so the user one need only this much data, this much space will be unused, so the efficiency will also decrease. So here you can see the efficiency will increase, and the latency also reduces, and the delay time also reduces. If in a 20 megahertz channel, if it is a 20 megahertz channel, there can be a 9 resource unit, means it can serve up to a 9 clients in a 20 megahertz channel. As the channel increases, means 40 megahertz, it can be a double 18, and 80 megahertz channel it can be a 37 respectively. The next key enabling technology is multi-user MIMO technology, means the multiple input and multiple output. The MIMO technology introduced in late now 2.11, which is the single user MIMO, which will use the multiple antennas to take advantage of multipath. The way a signal takes different path to reach the antenna. So MIMO will allows the devices to identify the different path, and the signal takes to the receiver and sends the unique streams of data known as spatial streams. Means the streams is a number of streams, means the number of stream is equal to the number of antenna. Means if access point means a router has a 4 antenna, then so it will have a 4 spatial streams. The transmission across a multiple spatial stream to a single client is a known as single user MIMO. Means the transmission across a multiple spatial streams. Here you can see the streams are there. 3 spatial streams are there. All are sent to a single client. All are sent to a single client. Means it is called single user MIMO. Means it's a single user MIMO is a multi-transmitter. It has a multi-transmitter and receiver technology for a wireless communication that allocates the bandwidth of a wireless access point to a single device. As you can see, all the spatial stream is given to a single device. So same thing is said here. A device such as a router, this access point, uses a single user MIMO will transmit a multiple data stream using a multiple antennas on the device to send the data to a single endpoint and devices such as phone, laptop, or tablet. If you use a single user MIMO, if in a first go, it will send all the 3 spatial streams to the one user, and in the next cycle it will give all the 3 spatial streams to the next user, and next cycle for the next user, like that. in single user MIMO, only one receiving client station could be served. So as I said, it can at a moment one only one client could be served. So at any moment in a time, the others desiring communication would have to wait. So this will result in a system capacity. So overall system capacity was limited. So to solve this problem, the TRAS group of found a new scheme, which is multi-user MIMO technology, which will enable an access point, which is this access point to transmit the data simultaneously to the all the users. If it is a three antenna, if it has a three antenna, means three special SIMs, one here, and one here, which enables an access point to transmit simultaneously to a multiple clients in a one transmit cycle, with each client receiving the unique data. It will be unique and modulated data from the other also sent at the same time. Now, several stations can receive the data they need with less overall waiting. The overall waiting time will be reduced and system capacity go up. It though so in a 802.11x, it can serve up to 8 clients. As I said, mu of DMA in a 20 megahertz channel, it can serve up to a 9 clients. So here in AX, it allows up to 8 clients. If I take for example, if there are 4 cross 4 antenna, let us assume that it has a 4 cross 4 antenna. So there will be a 4 special streams. Okay. So if there is a one more client, if there are multi-user MIMO capable clients, so the in using these 4 special streams, one special stream sent here, one here, one here, one here simultaneously. If here only 2 clients exist, then 2 special streams sent here, 2 special streams sent here. So you may have a question that if there is a 20 client, if there is a 20 client, only 4 cross 4 antenna, then so here AP, this AP will make a decision that the which client is received the first downlink, means which 4 clients. So it can support up to 4 antenna, no. So 4 clients. Which client received the downlink MIMO transmission, and which are assigned to a next group. So for example, as I said, 4 clients, another one clients. Uh, 4 clients could receive special streams simultaneously in the first downlink. In the first downlink from the access point to a device, in a first downlink, the first 4 clients will receive, and then next 4 will in a next downlink transmission. As like that, all the 20 clients will be served. The borrowing from the 802.11 AC, the implementation of 802.11x device will use a beamforming technique, which to direct packets from the simultaneous to spatial diverse user. To send this data from here to here from a specific specific user, this mu MIMO technique will use a technique called a beamforming technique. The beamforming technique in a multi-user means the multi-user MIMO is the technique to transmit the data in a specific direction, which will strengthen the signal. But without beamforming, you can see the signal is sent in every direction. Signal is sent in every direction, which will weaken the signal. So in beamforming, the data are sent in a specific direction, so that the signal strength will remain as it is. If we send to if we send in every direction, the signal strength also goes down, and only one device will receive the data. So we can compare this with a torch. This one we can compare this with a torch and a lantern. We can compare this with a torch and lantern. The torch is the point the light to a single direction, and the lantern light will be spread in a all the area. So this is beam forming, and this is not a beam forming. So this will point. This can go up. This can go up to a long. The light can go up to a long distance because it's pointing in a specific direction. But this is restricted to a area because it is a lantern. And lantern is spreads the light in all the direction. So this is called a beamforming technique, which will send the data in a specific direction. Let us see when to use multi-user OFDMA and when to use multi-user MIMO. The multi-user MIMO and multi-user OFDMA mechanism in Wi-Fi 6 will play a complementary roles, since both are multi-user technologies and focuses on improving efficiency of Wi-Fi network and reducing latency for time-sensitive application. In real 11 years, in real time, in Wi-Fi network, all the techniques like a single user MIMO, multi-user MIMO, and multi-user OFDM are used interactively according to the channel condition and the quality of services and the device types. The multi-user OFDMA and the multi-user MIMO technologies will complement each other. Each will help increase performance on the uplink and downlink and the service type and more. On the network, the access points optimize grouping and scheduling and select the best method for the next action based on their own customized algorithm. The AP will select them whether when to use and whether to use MuFDMA and MuMIMO and based on the customized algorithms. The multi-user MIMO and multi-user OFDMA have their respective advantages. In high bandwidth application, the multi-user MIMO is a best solution to in best solution to increase the connection efficiency, while multi-user OFDMA is the best for low bandwidth applications such as IoT. So, with if I need to transmit data from this access point to client. Here is a client, means it is a phone. If I need to transmit the data to a client from my access point, if I am a access point, I'm using a multi-user MIMO. So I should know where my client is. I should know where my client is. Means I should know the address. I should know the address where my client is. This address can be found using the AP will use a technique called a sounding technique. Means it will propagate the radio frequency waves, right? So it will use a technique called a sounding. So this sounding process will take about 1 millisecond to find out where the client is. Means which is a long time in a Wi-Fi world. We may think it's a small time, but for the Wi-Fi world, it is a long time. In Wi-Fi, if I need 1 millisecond to figure out where my client is, I need at least 10 milliseconds to transmit my data to get the benefit using that sounding time. To get the benefit of that sounding time, I need at least 10 milliseconds to transmit my data. If I do this work in 1 millisecond and then I transmit only 100 microsecond data, it doesn't make sense, right? the overhead is too much. Well, where the 1 millisecond and where 1 microsecond, 100 microsecond. So when there is a lots of data to transmit, such as downloading a large video, the multi-user MIMO is a very useful. With the OFDMA, the multi-user OFDMA, there is no sounding technique. Means there is no sounding technique overhead. So either for downloading or uploading, it don't cares about the where the client is. It just allocates the chunks of the spectrum. So there is no concept of sounding. It if I break a big truck, if I break a big truck into smaller chunks, means the resource unit, which means I am transporting little boxes, means little boxes data. So little boxes of data from a different users, means OFDM is applicable here. Means if I have to a bunch of phones, means doing a Wi-Fi calling, I am better using a OFDMA. It doesn't make sense that to use a multi-user MIMO technology here, because the use only have a small amount of data. But if 10 clients are downloading a 4K movies, and I am better off using a multi-user MIMO. So multi-user MIMO to those clients, because there is a there we need a large amount of data. So the both are useful on their respective environments. The multi-user my OFDMA also works well in mixed scenario, and where low bandwidth, high bandwidth application works simultaneously, as I said earlier. So these are some difference between multi-user OFDMA and multi-user MIMO. The multi-user OFDMA will improve the efficiency, it reduces the latency, and most suitable for low bandwidth application, and most suitable for small packet transmission. However, the also the and multi-user MIMO is useful when useful for the improving the capacity, increase the rate of each user, and most suitable for higher bandwidth application, and most suitable for large packet transmission. The next key enabling technology is the spatial reuse, which is BSS coloring. The Wi-Fi 6 uses a radio frequency communication, which is a half duplex medium, where only one radio can transmit and on a frequency domain at a given time. The carrier sense with a multiple access collision avoidance, means the CSMA-CA is the method used in Wi-Fi networks, means in the previous standards, to ensure that the only one radio can transmit in the same channel at a given time. And 802.11 radio will defer the transmission if it hears a physical preamble transmission of any other radio. If it hears the any other physical preamble transmission from the other radio, it will defer the transmission. Means if the signal if that signal detects the threshold of a just 4 decibel or more above the noise floor, this CSMA-CA is necessary to avoid collision. It is necessary, but however, the deferral of transmission also consumes a valuable airtime. So this problem is referred as a contention overhead. So this unnecessary medium contention overhead that occurs when too many APs, as I said, too many APs means this scenario will come into picture when there is a multiple access points. Means the multiple access points are operating in a close proximity. So when too many APs and clients hear each other on the same channel, means in the same channel, if they hear each other, there will be a collision. That is a collision that is called overlapping basic service set. Means that will the OBSS will happen here. Means if it sends the data, the A can hear all, and B also can hear. So if it is a if B detects the B or A detects the signal threshold, which is 4 decibel or more, but the six belongs to the 6 belongs to BSS A. But if if the signal sent by the channel 6 is heard by the B, then there will be a collision. So it will happen when it is in a close proximity, close proximity. So it will happen here. It is called overlapping area. So for example, if this AP1 on a channel 6 here's the preamble transmission of a nearby AP, which is AP2, also transmitting on a same channel which is channel 6. The channel 6, then AP1 will differ the transmission, can't transmit at the same time. So likewise, all the clients associated with AP1 access point 1 must also differ the transmission if they hear the preamble transmission of access point 2. So the access point, this overlapping BSS will create some medium contention overhead and consumes a valuable airtime, because we have two BSS, means two BSS, means BSS1 and BSS2 on the same channel and can hear each other and The primary goal of channel reuse pattern is to reduce the co-channel interference. Means it is the primary goal of this is to reduce the overlapping BSS, the transmission or collision happening in the overlapping BSS. The IEEE 802.11a standard defines the method that may increase the channel reuse by a factor of 8. This BSS color, also known as BSS coloring, is the method for addressing a medium contention overhead due to OBS. This BSS color is the identifier of the basic service set. This is the identifier for the this BSS. It's a color given to the BSS. This is BSS1 and this is BSS2. The color, if I give this color red and it is blue, then it is a BSS color. But it's a numerical identifier in computer. It's a numerical identifier which is a 6-bit. When Wi-Fi 6 radio is listening to the medium and hears the physical header of an 802.11ax frame sent by another Wi-Fi 6 radio, the listening radio will check the BSS color of the transmitting radio. So transmitting radio. If I give the red color to this red color to this access point, then for the client of that access point will also given a red color. So this client is for this, so it's also given a red color, and for this access point it's a blue color, so this client also given with a blue color. If this client with a red color want to transmit the data, okay, transmit the data to a access point, or it sends the signal, then it will check if the color is same. Yes, here you can say it's the color is same. If the color is same, then the frame is considered as a intra BSS. Intra BSS means in the same BSS and transmission, and the listening radio will differ. If the color is same, this is considered to be an intra BSS frame transmission. In other words, the transmission radio, which is this red color, same, it has the same color, so it is belongs to the same BSS. So this access point will differ, the listening radio will differ. If this access point hears the transmitted signal from this red client, then it will check if the color is different. Yeah, it is color is different. No, it is blue. The client is given with blue color, but the signal is coming from red color client. So then the frame is considered as considered an inter BSS, means it's the outside from the BSS, which can be a overlapping BSS, means it can be a overlap from the overlapping BSS. Differential in the transmission may not be necessary for the listening radio. This is the working or a working flow. It will first it will detect the 11ax frame. then it will check whether the received signal strength, means the signal received is the strength of the signal received is greater than the channel channel threshold, which is 4 decibel or more. No, if it is no, means it is less, then it will consider as signal is weak. So it will ignore the received frame. If the signal is more, yes, then it will check the BSS color field. It will check the BSS color. So if the frame color is same as BSS color, it is if the client color is same, it will check. If it is yes, then wireless medium is busy. Means it is transmitting. If it is transmitting the data for another client, it will say as it is a busy. So it is intra BSS frame transmission, means it is within the BSS. If color is not same, then it will check whether the received signal strength is greater than the strength of the overlapping BSS. Means it may come in overlapping BSS. So it will check the strength, means it is greater than 4 decibel or not. If it is not, then it is considered as signal is weak. If it is yes, then it will be from the outside the BSS. The client sending the signal from the outside the BSS. Then wireless it consider if it is sent if the access point sending the data to another client, the it is considered as wireless medium is busy. Using the procedure called the spatial reuse operation, Wi-Fi 6 radios will able to apply the adaptive clear channel assessment threshold for a detected OBSS frame transmission. The goal of BSS color and spatial reuse is to ignore the transmission from the overlapping BSS and therefore be able to transmit at the same time. So based on the detected BSS color, the Wi-Fi 6 radios can implement the adaptive clear channel assessment. Means to ignore the transmission from the overlapping BSS, it will implement an adaptive clear channel assessment. So that can raise a signal detect threshold for a inter BSS, means inter BSS frame, which is outside the BSS, but maintaining a lower threshold for a intra BSS, means within the BSS traffic. So if the signal detect threshold is raised higher for incoming OBSS frame, a radio might not need to differ. So it's outside, So despite being the same channel. So in this figure, you can see if the channel is same, if the channel if it is working on the same channel, the congestion the interference will happen because it is using the same frequencies. The congestion will happen. So if we use the spatial reuse and the BSS coloring technique, here you can say even though it is same channel but the color is different, so no congestion or no interference. The interference will happen only when there is that color is same. The color is same, then the difference in the transmission may happen based on the condition. It will be taken care by this access point. The next is the introduction to IEEE 802.11b, which is the future Wi-Fi, which is called a Wi-Fi 7. In May 2018, when the development of Wi-Fi 6 features has been finished, the 802.11 working group switched to polishing the 11AX amendment. The seventh generation of a Wi-Fi is also referred to as a Wi-Fi with the EHT. EHT means extremely high throughput as a result of its projected ability to support up to a 30 GB per second throughput, roughly 3 times faster than the Wi-Fi 6. Means Wi-Fi 6 gives the throughput up to a 10 GB per second, which is the 30 GB per second, which is Wi-Fi 7 gives, which is 3 times more. So there are a number of proposed features for the Wi-Fi 7 standard, but direct announcement over Wi-Fi 6 includes support of 320 megahertz channel. The Wi-Fi 6 is the will give the channel up to a 160 megahertz. So the use of higher modulation orders, which is optionally supporting 4096 QAM, which is 4K QAM, from a 1024 QAM in 802.11a, and the allocation of a multiple resource units, such as groups of OFDMA tone. These are some features. There are many more features, but I talking about these features, which is 4K QAM, EHT-PHY, physical layer of EHT and 320 megahertz, and HARQ technique and NOMA technique. These are some features and the innovation to increase the factors. So as you can see, the EHT-PHY, the innovation was discovered to increase the nominal throughput using the technologies 4096 QAM and 320 megahertz and 16x16 multi-user MIMO. 16x16 means it will support up to 16 clients. So also you increase the spectral efficiency, it is used the EHT preamble. So yes. The first one is the 4096 QAM, which is quadrature amplitude modulation, which is which is 4K QAM. Each additional increase in the order of constellation gives a smaller and smaller gain, while introducing a 256 QAM in a 802.11 AC, which provides a 33% gain with the respect to a 64 QAM of a 802.11 N. The 1024 QAM of a 802.11 AX increases the nominal data rates by only 25%, but the 4096 QAM gives only 20%. At the same time, the cost of such a small gain is a high. The signal to noise ratio needed at the receiver side to accept that 4096 QAM is about 40 dB, which is too high for a typical Wi-Fi scenario. Such a high signal to noise ratio can be achieved with the beamforming. Means as we discussed earlier, it can be achieved with the beamforming technique. So this modulation can be fruitful when the access point has many antennas. It is fruitful only when the access point has a many antennas and serves only one client with a few antennas. In such a case, the multi-user transmission cannot be used. In this case, the multi-user transmission cannot be used, and the number of signal strength is also low. So the only way to increase the throughput, which we need is 30 GB per second, is by using a higher order of constellation. That is why the 4096 QAM will be optionally supported by this extremely high throughput Wi-Fi 7. The next one is the extremely high throughput the frame format. To support all new physical layer features, the 11B needs to modify frame formats. The legacy preamble contains a short train field, which is short train field, and the long training field used for the frame detection. These two used for the frame detection and receiver synchronization. The next OFDM symbol carries the legacy signal field, which is LSIG, that tells which modulation and coding schemes is used for the subsequent signal and what is the frame length. The USIG, which is this, will contain the version independent and version dependent information. Version dependent information means which is the same as the previous version, like a space-time block code and a flag, etc., which will contain flag, etc. But the version dependent information, version independent information includes a 3-bit physical layer identifier and 1-bit uplink and downlink AG and basic service set color and transmission opportunity, duration and bandwidth, etc. The next one is a EHT SIG field, which will contain a common field and user specific field. The next is the EHT SIG field stores information not included in USIG, which will store the information which is not included in the USIG field, but needed for a new 11B feature. To accommodate all the mentioned information, the EHT SIG field can use its own modulation and coding scheme and can occupy available number of symbols which is indicated in USIG field. The EHT SIG field consists two fields, right? The common field and the user specific field. The common field contains information about modulation and coding scheme, the number of space-time streams and the coding and the duration of the guard interval and the resource allocation, etc. The user specific fields are present for a multi-user frames. This is present only for the multi-user frames and carry dedicated information for individual clients. In the case of uplink multi-user transmission, the trigger frame dense the information carried in the previous field, which is EHT SIG field. The next two fields are same as the previous standards, and the payload, which is data. The next is a 320 megahertz channel, which is a unique feature. A much higher gain is possible with doubling the bandwidth. As you know, it is much higher gain is possible when with the doubling the bandwidth. The doubling the bandwidth more means the more data it can carry. So recently opened for ISM usage, the 6 gigahertz band brings hundreds of megahertz available to a Wi-Fi. To explore these frequencies, the task group of B, which is 11B, introduced the wide as a 320 megahertz channels, which can double the maximum throughput, nominal throughput with respect to 11x. Moreover, these features improves the real data rates. If the distance between the transmitter and receiver is moderate, then only it will improve the data rate. As the achievable rate is linearly increases with the bandwidth, while the effect from the 5 smaller SNR is which is logarithmic. By now, it is approved that in addition to 320 MHz channel, the 11B supports 160 plus 160 MHz channels and the 80 plus 80 MHz channels also. When a wide bandwidth is used, the legacy preamble is duplicated in every 20 megahertz. It is duplicated in every 20 megahertz. A simple duplication may cause a higher peak-to-peak average power ratio in the preamble. To reduce this, the previous amendments in the 11A and the previous, they will rotate a duplicated parts by multiplying them with plus or minus 1 or plus or minus j. The extremely high throughput part will use the same idea. This will use the same idea, but the exact method is not agreed yet. Since the operation in such a wide channel may be insufficient and in a dense employment with the frequency selective fading and by power limited devices together with the wide channels. The task group B considers band aggregation, that is a joint usage of several links which is established at a different frequencies. With this approach, the total channel width may exceed 320 megahertz. It may exceed 320 megahertz, which will result in an extremely high throughput. The next one is a hybrid automatic repeat request technique. In Wi-Fi network, if we control the sum of packet which does not equal the value in the corresponding field of the packet, the receiver drops the obtained data and the transmitter repeats the whole packet. To improve the spectrum efficiency of 11B, many contributions propose to introduce the HARQ, which is to 11B. In contrast to the legacy retransmission procedure, the HARQ explores the information from the previous tries. The receiver combines the signal from the several transmission and attempts, which increases the SNR and consequently the probability that the receiver decodes the packet correctly. The HARQ proves to be more robust to the errors in the estimation of the SNR at the receiver. It allows the transmitter to select a higher modulation and coding scheme opportunistically. Either the transmission is fast with the good channel or the receiver extracts the same information anyway with the poor channel, and the decodes the packet with the transmission rate. So moreover, HARQ hybrid automatic request repeat avoids the reducing the modulation schemes for such a retract. The next one is the NOMA technique, which is non-orthogonal multiple access scheme. To increase peak throughput and improve efficiency, the NOMA method is designed. So the basic idea of the NOMA is that the access, this access point can serve multiple clients simultaneously in the same basement by allocating the portion of the total total power for each client. The access point can perform this NOMA transmission with the superposition coding. This will use a superposition coding, which is a simple superposition of a multiple signal components with the different coefficients and subject to a power constraint. And let us see the difference between Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7. The maximum data capacity of Wi-Fi 6 is 10 GB per second and the Wi-Fi 7 is 30 GB per second. The COM modulation used in Wi-Fi 6 is 1024 COM and Wi-Fi 7 is 4096 COM. The technology used in the data streams used in Wi-Fi 6 is multi-user MIMO with 8 streams, and the Wi-Fi 7 is coordination multi-user MIMO, which is with the 16 streams. The access point is in Wi-Fi 6 is one, and in Wi-Fi 7 is multiple. In Wi-Fi 6 standard is 802.11ax, and the Wi-Fi 7 standard is 802.11b. The band supported for the Wi-Fi 6 is 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Wi-Fi 7 is 2.456. The single channel width of Wi-Fi 6 is 160 megahertz. It can support up to 160 megahertz. In Wi-Fi 7, up to a 320 megahertz. The security used was WP3, and security used in Wi-Fi 7 is WP4. The release date is 2019, which is released Wi-Fi 6, and Wi-Fi 7 will release in 2024. And this is my conclusion. The IEEE 802.11a serving the user for both high and low bandwidth application. But due to increase in Wi-Fi user, as I said earlier, the increase in the Wi-Fi user and with the emergence of 4K, 8K video, the throughput requirement of video delivery will keep growing at 10 sub GB per second. Other new high throughput and low latency video application, including the augmented reality, virtual reality, and online gaming, are also proliferating. To meet these new emerging demands, the IEEE 802.11 will release a new amendment standard, IEEE 802.11b. Its core features are related to providing a extremely high throughput and supporting a real-time applications. Although the standard development process is at the very initial stage, we already can sketch the future technology and point out its advantage and the limitation together with the open issues which require additional effort from the community. These are my references. And thank you.